Okay, today let's talk about how you multiply together two binomials. We're going to use what's called the FOIL method, which is an acronym. It's basically a double distributive property. So let me show you what this is all about. So if we want to multiply these two binomials together, we're going to go through a double distributive property. So the first thing we do is we take this first term x and we multiply it to the first term of the other expression. Okay, so that we call f, or the first. X times x is x squared. Then what we do is we multiply the outside terms, or the next part of the distributive property. So this is O. So this is how we get this acronym. So x times 5 is positive 5x. So that first distributive property is complete. Next thing we do is we take this 2 and multiply it to the x. So that's called I. Those are the inside terms. 2 times x is positive 2x. And then finally, you complete the second distributive property and you multiply the last terms that you see in the parentheses, and that would be 10. So what we've done is step one of the FOIL method. We have multiplied with a double distributive property. So now I'm going to go ahead and erase these letters now that you know what this represents. And there's one thing left that we can do. And I see some like terms that can be combined together. So these right here become a 7x, don't they? And then you have this term, which gets listed first, and then this term, and there's the final answer. And this is a trinomial, lead coefficient of 1 with a degree of 2. And that's the FOIL method. It's basically just a double distributive property. Okay, let's try this one. Here we go. First terms, x squared. Outside terms, negative 4x. So the first distributive property is done. Inside terms, positive 3x. Last terms, watch your signs, that's a negative 12 when you multiply. Okay, now we can probably put together these two terms, right? So if we look at that carefully, those are like terms, and that answer would be negative 1x. Drop down this and this. Final answer. That's the FOIL method. How about we take a look at this? Let's try a FOIL method on this. So just be careful with your multiplication. What is that? That's 2x squared. Next part of the distributive property would be 10x. Let's keep going. Now the next distributive property. And then finally our last terms, multiplying carefully. Let's take a look at our like terms on the inside here. Those could be combined together. And that would give us 10 minus 3 would be 7x. It's a positive, right? Bring down the x squared term, the regular number, and there we are. Finished with that. Okay, I want everybody to go ahead and try those. Let's go through it. Let's keep multiplying through here. Next distributive property. finish the second distributive property. See, that's a plus 18. Like terms become minus 9x. Here's the final answer. Kind of messed that up a little bit, didn't I? Okay, so there we go. Next problem. 6x squared. Multiply. Next distributive property. Finish that distributive property. Check for like terms, and we have them right here. What do we get? That'd be negative 7x. Let's put the other terms in here, and we have our answer. What do we do about something like this? Well, now what we have is a little bit bigger problem. You can't really use a FOIL method. You have too many terms. But what we can do is we can go through a double distributive property. Let me show you. All right, so let's take this term and multiply it here. And that would be x to the third power, wouldn't it? Now let's multiply these two together, and that would be minus 3x to the second power if you're looking at it very carefully. And then we're going to multiply this x all the way over here and be minus 2x. Okay? That's the first distributive property done. Now we need to do the same thing with the 5. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into an old-fashioned addition or subtraction problem. Watch and learn. So if I multiply the 5 to the x squared, that's 5x squared. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up underneath the other x squared term. Now I'm going to do the next part. That's negative 15x. I will line it up underneath the x term. See what I'm doing? Now I'm going to multiply these together, and that's minus 10. Now if I look at this, what I have now is a nicely organized problem where I can combine together like terms. So I drop down this. I've got x to the third. Add together my x squared terms. Put together my x terms. And then this constant term is left there by itself. And the problem's now in standard form and completely reduced. There are no like terms remaining. All right, I'd like everybody to try that one. All right, here we go. Let's see what we get here. That'll be x to the third. That'll be 5x squared. And then this will be plus 8x. All right, let's go to the next distributive property. That would be 1x squared. 1 times 5x would be 5x. And then 1 times 8 will be 8. Here we go. Combine like terms, we'll have our answer. Remember, when you add or subtract terms, you do not change exponents. The exponent rules are only for multiplication or division. There we go. Let's try one more. Okay? Go ahead and give it a shot. Keep plugging along here. Watch your sign here. Okay, we're all done with our distributive properties. Let's add together our like terms. Do not change your exponents. And there we go. That should do it for today's lesson.